We enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation.
The note that should not exist. The Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case. A genuine ransom note has one purpose: leverage. It demands something in exchange for something. It does not apologize. It does not explain. It does not volunteer the information that the person being held is already dead. When the second ransom note in the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case surfaced, it did all three of those things, and in doing so, it violated every behavioral principle that forensic analysts use to authenticate criminal communications.
Analysis. Why didn't they pay? What was in that second note? 5 days after Nancy was taken. Here's what a former Arizona reporter who covered the case and who says she saw the note says.
We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. It went on to say that they never intended to hurt her during all of this. They continued and said she perished shortly after she was taken. They believe that it was heart-related. And maybe the most important part of the second ransom note, it said, "Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome. We are truly sorry."
So they did say they were sorry. Do we care? I don't know. But it was reported that they didn't. That's weird. And it's been reported that there was nothing in there about her dying, but there was, right? Why would this lady be lying, and how could she get it wrong if she actually saw it? Let's ask News Nation Law and Justice contributor what this means, and in terms of what kind of person is this, okay? Justice contributor, of course, former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, as I call her, the Coffindaffer, and former special agent in charge of the FBI's Tucson office, Andrew Black, or as I call him, Andrew Black. So when we look at this situation of this note, one, it's nice to get the facts straight, Coffindaffer, you know, in terms of like what was in it, what is it. So what does this tell you about the person?
Well, this tells me some level of sophistication. Again, first of all, they cannot trace those items.
Either the people who wrote it had no understanding of how ransom notes function, or they understood exactly how they functioned and made a deliberate choice to write something different. Both possibilities are deeply unsettling. So ask yourself this: if a ransom note tells you the victim is dead before anyone has asked for proof that she is alive, who is that note actually?
Addresses. Second of all, I think this whole note is malarkey, meaning nobody writes a ransom note like this. I don't think this was a soft sell. I think this was completely self-serving for this person whenever they are caught, that it looks like, oh, they're contrite, they're sorry. This was just a flowery, I'm sorry letter. It wasn't even a ransom note. And so that's my take. I also really believe this could be an English as a second language person that used AI to write this note.
Andrew, different take.
Yeah, when I look at this, I think we're giving the notes a little too much credit here. First, we have to authenticate the notes. Are these really the kidnappers who are writing these notes? Seemingly, it's credible because the author of those notes, in the first note particularly, provided information that either the kidnappers would have, the family would have, or law enforcement. But to me, that's not enough, because how well secure was that crime scene the first couple of days? That information could have been leaked out to individuals who we've seen already try to exploit the Guthries because of this tragic situation. So I'm not convinced the notes are legitimate. It might be, but I think it's too early to legitimize it, but I'm not saying they're fraudulent either. Additionally, if this is a legitimate kidnapper, why didn't they provide proof of life? Those are the rules of ransom. Kidnap someone, demonstrate proof of life, and then collect the money.
Nancy Guthrie was a young woman living in Arizona when she was abducted in 2023. The case drew significant public attention, not primarily because of the abduction itself, but because of what came after it. Her family received communications, multiple notes, and the second of those notes contained content that experienced investigators described as structurally anomalous.
We don't have that here.
Coffin Dapper, does the person who wrote these notes look like the person we saw on the porch, in your opinion?
No, it doesn't. I believe there's an accomplice. I do believe, with all respect to Mr. Black, I do believe that they're real, and this is why the FBI, I don't believe, in my experience, would put up that sort of a dissertation from the family. They had BAU, they used all of that to actually make the presentation begging basically for proof of life. That would not happen if the FBI didn't legitimately believe these notes were real. And Savannah says they're real.
Right. Should they have paid, Andrew? I know the FBI says we don't think there's enough here, but is it wrong to be like filled with regret when then you get that second letter?
Well, you have to look at it logically. If the kidnappers did have Nancy, all they had to do was provide evidence that she was alive, then I would definitely pay the ransom. They didn't provide that. They had information they could have gotten elsewhere. I'm not saying that the ransom notes were not authentic or these aren't the kidnappers, but we just don't know at this point, and I don't like to speculate.
I got you. Listen, I got you. I wish we didn't have to.
The people around this case, the family, the investigators, the forensic consultants brought in to assess the material, were processing grief and uncertainty simultaneously, which is its own kind of psychological violence. There is no documented personal detail that makes this easier to hold. A young woman was taken, her family waited, and the communication they received told them, in writing, that waiting was already over. The second ransom note acknowledged Nancy's death. It attributed the cause to something described as heart-related. It then stated, with language that investigators flagged immediately, that there was nothing the family could have done. Forensic linguists and behavioral analysts identified at least 3 distinct anomalies. First, authentic ransom communications virtually never disclose a victim's death voluntarily. Disclosure eliminates leverage and invites maximum prosecutorial exposure. Second, the medical framing, heart-related, is clinically imprecise in a way that suggests either deliberate vagueness or authorship by someone without access to accurate information about the cause of death. Third, the performative apology. The phrase, "nothing you could have done," is not the language of someone operating a criminal enterprise. It is the language of someone managing perception. Forensic consultant Andrew Black noted publicly that insider details within the note created initial credibility, but that initial credibility is not the same as forensic authentication. Without verified scene integrity and confirmed absence of information leakage, the note cannot be treated as authoritative. Critically, neither communication contained proof of life material. Under standard investigative protocol, the absence of proof of life does not merely weaken a ransom framework, it invalidates it. The Nancy Guthrie case remains unresolved as of the time of this script. No charges have been confirmed in the public record that would allow a definitive legal analysis. What can be examined is the broader statistical and forensic context. Kidnapping cases in the United States involving written ransom communications represent a small fraction of total abduction cases. The FBI estimates that fewer than 10% of kidnappings involve formal ransom demands. Of those, communications that proactively disclose the victim's death are extraordinarily rare in authenticated case files. When they do appear, behavioral analysts consistently flag them as either fabricated, authored under extreme psychological duress, or constructed by perpetrators anticipating capture, who are attempting to pre-shape legal and public narrative. The Guthrie note fits the third profile with uncomfortable precision. The language of remorse, the medical softening, the closing reassurance to the family, these are not the features of communication designed to extract a ransom. They are the features of communication designed to be read later by a jury. What this case exposes is something that goes beyond the question of who took Nancy Guthrie. It exposes how easily a document can colonize an investigation, how a single piece of text, if it appears to contain insider knowledge, can redirect forensic resources, shape media framing, and manipulate the emotional processing of an entire family. The possibility that the note was generated or assisted by artificial intelligence has been raised by analysts examining its syntactic structure and tonal consistency. That possibility has not been ruled out, and if it is true, it introduces a dimension of criminal sophistication that law enforcement is only beginning to develop tools to counter. Nancy Guthrie's case is open. Her family is still waiting for answers that a note told them in careful and remorseful language they would never fully have. The most dangerous document in a criminal investigation is not the one that lies. It is the one that tells just enough of the truth to make you stop looking.